once again back, mate, because there's been a lot of mainstream media right crosses that have been flooding the media sphere that we've had to deal with. And I think it's fitting that we return with some strong left hooks and left hook analysis.
Yes. So there's been a lot going on in Australian politics over the past few weeks, overshadowed by the cluster F of what's going on in the United States, unfortunately. So I think a lot of people end up just kind of talking about what's going on in the United States and, not paying attention to what's happening here in Australia at the moment.
And that really is, before we get into it, I guess that really is a problem that we have in Australian political culture and political discourse. And I guess an issue that we have with our culture as a whole is that we are so Americanized that we essentially take what's happening in America and that becomes the center of like cultural attention in Australia. And then we obviously neglect paying any attention to what's actually happening here, which is very important.
As you mentioned, it's not just our pop culture and our music and entertainment, it's also our politics, as we're about to talk about.
Yes. Which is a terrifying precedent. All right. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today, guys. So you're going to be looking at kind of the political landscape coming into the federal election that is soon to be announced.
Correct. Yeah. So we have to have a federal election by May the 17th. Anthony Albanese has not announced when we're going to have it. I am willing to roll the dice and suggest that it could be this week.
He'll announce it.
If not this week, the following week. Yep. Because last week, we had the Reserve Bank of Australia come out and lower interest rates for the first time in 5 years now, since 2020.
And you don't think that was political at all? Like that wasn't politically motivated?
No,
because they are supposed to be an apolitical body, obviously.
Correct. If you listen to other pundits on this, they would argue that the Reserve Bank of Australia leans towards the Liberal Party. And it's stacked with kind of supporters of the Liberal Party. Yep. So it's been the lowering of the interest rates came quite late. It probably should have happened at some point last year, probably halfway through last year. Most of the other major Western democracies, the United Kingdom, the USA, Canada, for example, have all had, I think, about 4 interest rate cuts now, anywhere between 4 and 6. So ours has come quite late, which has put a lot of pressure on Albanese because it's the economy, stupid.
Of course.
That's what it usually comes down to at a federal election. It's really how people's wallets, how people's mortgages. That's what they think about first. So
the irony of that being that we have actually recently regained a AAA credit rating globally, and we are in a surplus, and we have had falling inflation and all these phenomena that are quite unique amongst the Western world. We're one of the few countries that is kind of in this lucky position, considering how chaotic the global economy is and uncertain it is at the moment as well.
So there's a rating system that puts Australia as the 6th best managed economy in the globe at the moment. Wow. And under the coalition for 10 years, it was anywhere between 60 and 80.
And we pretty much had consistent deficits under the last 10 years of the coalition
surplus
government.
In, 20 years or something?
Amazing.
I think more.
There you go.
So,
anyways.
So, what is interesting, though, at the moment is that the YouGov poll, the latest one, which surveyed over 40,000 people, has summarised that most likely the coalition are going to win 73 seats.
Yep.
You need 76 seats to govern. Labor, I believe it was 66 seats. So they'll be 10 seats short.
So that's predicted at the moment.
Predicted. Yeah. Obviously, there could, within range, plus or minus a couple of seats. Both parties are going to need the crossbench to govern. So Labor is going to need all 10 of the independents and or the Greens to govern. Coalition are going to need 3. So what will probably happen is whoever is ahead, most likely at the moment, it'll be the coalition. They will say gain 72 seats, and then Labor might be at 64, for example. And then what will happen to ensure that we get a stable government? Most likely, a lot of the independents then will side with the Liberal Party or the coalition to form government. So that's what's most likely going to happen. So it's really going to come down to the Teals and the independents who is going to govern Australia. Which is a really interesting shift because this has never happened before. You've obviously had crossbench before come in and help with the minority government, but not like this.
And where do you think the Greens are going to stand?
In what regard? Who they would side with?
Yeah, who they would side with.
Well, most likely Labor.
Most likely Labor.
Yes. A lot of the independents, I think, will shift towards the Liberal Party. As I've heard other pundits say, the Teals are really just Greens dressed up.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. I always got a very kind of LNP vibe. I got like if it was the Liberal Party, but they cared about the climate change, then
Correct.
you'd be a teal.
Yes, that's right.
You know, you'd kind of be a teal or an independent. Hilarious.
Yeah. So that's what's most likely going to happen at the moment. So Peter Dutton most likely to be the next Prime Minister.
Terrifying. But we'll wait and see. I still do believe that the longer he's out in the spotlight, the less popular he gets.
Yeah.
Because he is just such an odious man.
Yeah.
And the more the public sees him and listens to him, then the less is just the exposure is not good for him, essentially.
He plays the long game. He's very cunning.
He is.
He's very sharp and he's politically very astute as well.
He's a good opposition leader.
Yes.
Because as an opposition leader, you just have to be like a rabid attack dog, essentially.
He plays that position
and he
perfectly.
plays that position well.
Yeah.
Again, whether he'll be a good Prime Minister or not, again, because being a good opposition leader and being a good Prime Minister are different things, obviously. I think Anthony Albanese was a reasonably good opposition leader and has been overall reasonably good PM in terms of managing the functions of the government, essentially.
Correct, yes. What's interesting, though, is that the Liberal Party have said that they're going to cut all foreign investment into the property market. And the Labor Party adopted that as well straight away.
Well, that's interesting. And that's definitely, obviously, probably a reflection of the high housing prices.
Yeah.
And I guess that would probably tie into their immigration policy as well, which they're touting about as a big thing to end immigration, stop,
But who has supported immigration? Well, like quite exuberant amounts of immigration over the past 10 years. It was the LNP.
The LNP, yes.
Correct. And it was actually the Labor Party over the past, I think, 2 years finally started to actually slow it down and bring it down to a more manageable intake.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So this week we had our favourite billionaire.
Yeah.
Not that I have any favourite billionaires. Clive Palmer.
Again.
Back in the spotlight.
He's going for it again, is he?
He's now back in the spotlight.
Wow.
So Clive Palmer in the 2022 federal election poured close to $130 million into his UAP party.
Am I correct in remembering that he didn't win a single seat?
No, he won a seat in the Senate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That was it.
Would you reckon it was worth 130 million?
Well, you'd have to ask him. He might think it is.
He might think it is. He's got enough money. Oh,
yeah.
Goodness.
So I tried to find his...
Sorry, I was going to make a quick joke. He's essentially just going to say the government needs to start subsidising like cream donuts.
Probably.
Sorry, continue.
So what's interesting is that he couldn't register UAP in time enough. So he had to form a new party and got invited by the Trumpet of Parrots, the Trumpet of Patriots party, which previously was like the Federation Party or something.
Because I'd never heard of this party before.
Yeah, there's a reason why you've never heard of them.
Of course, yeah.
And so he went to Canberra last week and announced that this would be his party that he'd be running. And I think he's going to be running seats all across Australia, obviously in Western Australia and for the federal election.
I guess he's got the money to spend, doesn't he?
Correct.
Yeah.
He has the money to spend. Notably, though, and this is what stood out to me, first of all, Trumpet of Patriots. Trump.
Yeah.
Trumpet of Patriots.
Yes.
However, though, what I find really funny is the logo is a picture of it's an AI-generated image of the Australian flag, like a gold emblem and a lion with a vuvuzela in the lion's mouth. It's actually, first of all, it's not a trumpet. And it says, Honor Omnia. So Omnia is Latin for everything or all.
Yeah.
So it's got the Latin phrase there, honor, and it says honor above all, the Trumpet of Patriots. And just the fact that he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
Or sorry, billions of dollars. And he had to go and use an AI-generated software to make his logo.
Yeah, look, and nothing says Australian identity like a lion playing a vuvuzela in front of some Latin writing. That just screams Australian.
It does, it really does. And this is interesting. So I couldn't actually find any policies. I couldn't find like a policy paper or anything to read.
I'm assuming it'd just be tax cuts for...
Well, you'd be surprised about this. It's actually, they do provide one paragraph and it says, the world is changing. In the USA, government waste and corruption is finally being exposed. For too long, Australians have suffered from a Labor liberal duopoly of power supported by the Greens and now the Tills. The simple reason your cost of living is so high is because Australians are being ripped off by the political system, unelected bureaucrats and the lobbyists who support them. Enough is enough. We will drain the swamp.
Where have I heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So that's not very original rhetoric.
No, it's not.
But as we said earlier, like we have adopted so much American political culture
Yeah.
as well. So I think I'm assuming he's banking on the fact that there might be a chance this will actually resonate with people as we pay attention to what's happening in the US and the shift that is underway at the moment.
Yeah, it may. There may be a certain demographic of Australians that support this. However, I don't think it'll stick with most people. It's very just kind of like a carbon copy of what's going on in the United States. He's just trying to copy the kind of Elon Musk, Trump.
Yeah.
We will cut the deficit, go in, slash the bureaucracy.
Cut the deficit even though we have a surplus.
Even though we have a surplus.
Try to explain that one to the voters.
Yeah,
live.
But he was interviewed on Channel 9.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was really just difficult. He's not a politician.
He's
not
definitely
a good
not a
speaker.
politician.
He is a mining mogul billionaire who cruises around on a private jet.
Yeah.
And just stick to that. That's what you do best.
Exactly.
Okay?
Continue, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, in the interview, they were asking me about some of his policies. And one of them was, we need to end, obviously, he's like, you're talking about sexuality. We need to end transgender athletes. I don't want my 10-year-old daughter going to school with another child that doesn't know their own, like, sexuality. And I was like, well, unfortunately, as you said, the world is changing.
The world is changing,
the world is changing. Furthermore, he said, every time I fly into Australia or Sydney, I'm welcome to my own country. I just find this so offensive.
Yes. So again, this horse died, and they're beating it.
They're just beating
They're just
it
relentlessly
over and
flogging this horse.
Yeah.
Wow.
But what he tried to do is that he tried to merge the UAP at the end of last year with One Nation.
Yeah.
So he went to Pauline Hanson and he suggested they actually merge both their kind of parties, the UAP and One Nation, which would make them a formidable kind of right-wing populist force in Australia.
And One Nation has kind of a pretty... It's not a huge presence, but it's like a solid presence.
It is.
They've been like Pauline Hanson's been around for a long time,
Correct.
and she's probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Yeah.
But surprise, surprise, they actually couldn't agree on who would lead the party and who would finance it.
Well, I think logically, I mean, I could sort that problem out. And if Pauline lead it and Clive fund it,
Yeah,
but
so.
if they couldn't come to that conclusion, interesting because I know obviously Clive Palmer has been the last kind of election cycle. He has the last two election cycles kind of. He has been more prominent in Australian politics. Obviously, he's kind of advertising. You know, he was putting ads, big billboards, like he's saying, on the UAP party. And I do find it interesting because on Tucker Carlson's recent speaking tour, when he came to Australia,
Clive Palmer brought him out.
Yes, Clive Palmer brought him out. So obviously, with the intention of kind of culminating that kind of anti-establishment right-wing sentiment and starting to kind of nurture that, which again leads into his political party and the appeal that he's trying to, and that section of society he's trying to appeal to.
Well, what I think his party serves is that because we have a preferential voting system here in Australia, is what will happen is he will support the Liberal Party with his preferences.
Oh, of course.
But what that'll be able to do is the Liberal Party doesn't have to run on these really extreme right-wing policies and talking points and positions. What can happen is they can just kind of try and capture middle Australia that have voted for the Liberal Party for most of their life, and then the kind of fringes now that are breaking away from the political establishment, who are disenfranchised, who would vote for someone like Trump or someone that does lean into these more kind of extreme right-wing sentiments. He's trying to capture them, and then those votes will be channeled towards the Liberal Party.
And he can refunnel them towards the
Libs.
Yes.
Yeah, and he did say in the interview on Channel 9, he was like, we'll see, I'm not going to say who we would support. And it's like,
bro, come on. It's funny as well because, like, obviously you've got this, so you've got Clive, and then you've got the Liberal Party and Dutto, who are essentially being bankrolled, supported, having their backs rubbed all by Gina Rinehart, essentially, who is, I believe, Australia's richest person? Second richest.
Richest woman,
Richest woman, girl power, you go girl. But it's interesting how you're starting to see this public presence of these odious kind of parasitic creatures that are now getting into politics. And I think, again, coming back to a reflection of what we've seen recently as well, is you have seen the Musk-type figures cultivate their personality and then kind of use that and also buy their way into it, but use that as a wedge.
What I find really disturbing about this is that at one point oligarchs used to sit back and fund think tanks and politicians. Now they're actually coming out into the light and they're able to operate inside the political system themselves. And that I find quite disturbing.
Well, I didn't know that these people could actually withstand sunlight on their skin. I thought you'd just essentially melt away, in the rays of the sun. But look, fair enough. But I guess it gets down to the point, it's like, just by funding civil society organisations and think tanks and paying for ads in newspapers, etc., and having common class interests with the ruling class, that still doesn't give you direct enough power. You literally need to be there physically steering these characters. Yeah. Well, look, it's interesting, man. I'm not going to lie.
And when you have a lust for that much money, you also have a lust for that sort of power as
well.
Yeah,
of course. And I guess you've grown up your entire life experiencing that, having that power and being able to tell people and dictate terms that you'd like. And we're seeing that reflected now, I guess.
But the thing is, Clive Palmer's not original, man. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have that knack. Trump has it.
Yeah.
You don't have to like the man, hate him or love him. He has it.
And he's funny.
He is.
He's funny.
Nobody has that. He does have that political kind of tenacity where he's able to go in there and attack.
Yeah.
And he uses his rhetoric is quite good some of the time.
Yeah.
But Clive Palmer, when you listen to a talk, he's just trying to copy it. He's just trying to create this carbon copy that is... It's not very carbon.
Well, to me,
it's more like a very fragile aluminium copy.
But to me as well, it just seems like uninspired. Like it just seems so blatant. I wouldn't even give it the time of day, even if I was politically inclined in that direction.
But however, now the votes are slipping from the two major parties and going more and more to independents. Unfortunately, some of those votes, people are disenfranchised and don't actually want to vote for the two major parties, or don't understand why they should vote for the two major parties, will potentially see Clive Palmer, see these different political parties emerging, and potentially vote for them.
Yeah, of course.
So I think in some ways it's kind of up for grabs in the next decade.
Yeah, mate, definitely. Do you think we need to start a left-hook political party in the near distant future? No. I'd just like to remind everyone that the good thing about being a democracy is everyone, or a supposed liberal democracy, is you can vote for whoever you want.
That's exactly right.
Just everyone should try and be as critically informed as possible on the subject.
That's right.
Bloody oath.
Yeah. So...
We've got many things to look forward to, mate.
No, we do. That's exactly right. On to our next...